and welcome to the Comicspiracy episode 167 for the week of January, March, July 17th, July 14th, 2014.
It's been so long since you screwed up.
It has. Well, it's been so long since we recorded a podcast since we had our double last week. I don't even know what month it is. July 14th, 2014. My name's Ryan Higgins, who's here with me this week.
Brock Sager.
Toby.
And Charlie.
Omar is en route, apparently, so he should be joining us very shortly.
He's spaceshipping it over here in his Prius.
I hope so. Yeah, we had our double episode last week, so we had that long, close to 3-hour episode with Omar and Bryce. So,
3-hour tour.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed. We got a ton of random crap to talk about here. Let's get to it.
Yes, all the news came out before Comic-Con instead of after.
Well, we had a bunch of news of DC books, with the Marvel solicitations being tomorrow, the day after we record, or possibly Wednesday. I'm sure we'll have a ton of Marvel stuff to talk about next week, but DC solicitations did hit today, and a lot of pre-Comic-Con talk, so let's get through a bit of these, like a little rapid fire here. Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo on Batman announced their next arc, Batman Endgame, starts in October. Hopefully it has nothing to do with them wrapping up their run. It doesn't sound like it, but
even though from the title, that was the first thing I thought.
Yeah. Me too. So hopefully this has nothing to do with them ending their book. But
no, I think both of them are very happy with what DC gives them.
Yeah, it's this is a 6-issue arc, so it's
that's better than 12.
There is literally no. This is the solicitation from the superstar creative team that brought you a new start to the Cape Crusader. Comes a story that could end him. Be there in October for the biggest, deadliest, and most epic story yet from writer Scott Snyder and artist Greg Capullo. Batman Endgame begins here. So I have no idea. No one knows what it's about. So there you go. This is coming, about halfway through Batman Future's End. Batman Eternal. Future's End is something else.
Yep.
So we're going to have Batman kind of tying back in with Eternal and everything, which is where I figured was going to happen. So
I seriously need to get caught up with Eternal and Future's End.
I'm actually just wondering at what point will Eternal match up with the timeline that existed in the Batman 27? Was that the one that they jumped ahead to do the preview of Eternal, or what issue is that?
Was it 20? May have been 27, 28. Yeah.
The one with Catwoman.
Because all the events in that are definitely farther along in Eternal than we are at this point.
I'm assuming that will be around the time of Eternal tying in with Batman again. Like that'll take place kind of, it's like the first part of it. So that'd be my guess. Yeah. They said something about kind of doing like a catch-up story to get readers of Batman up to, or Endgame is going to have elements of catch-up to get people current with what's going on in Eternal if they don't read it. So, which makes sense.
I really like Eternal.
Yeah. They also had a ton of new announcements. Well, I guess let's talk about Green Lantern here real quick.
It's going to be real quick?
Yeah, it's coming from October. They had announcements of a bunch of new titles, but we'll get to that in a second. First, October 2014, another big Green Lantern event, and they're bringing back the New Gods along with it. So, Green Lantern Godhead being the...
That's the name of the arc?
Yeah. It's the arc makes sense to me. Yeah. The only problem I kind of have is the whole idea of sort of the event fatigue and the kind of war mentality the book's taken on since since Hal Jordan's been in charge. It kind of feels like wherever Hal Jordan is pointing, the entire Corps goes. Yeah. Like he doesn't.
Well, he's the head of the Corps.
Well, no, but before you had sort of the Guardians keeping track of everything going on in the universe and kind of splitting the Corps where it was needed. Where in this case, because it's one person in charge of the entire Corps, it kind of feels like they're constantly going, Mogo here, Mogo there.
He's definitely disrupting a lot of tides.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird dynamic, and it kind of feels like they've gone from space police to just a army.
Well,
and I mean, we've had like 2 or 3 kind of big things since John's left.
Well, I think that's I don't want to say bigger concern, but it has been event after event after event with Green Lantern, and maybe that's to keep the book selling at kind of a consistent level, because right now, at least for me, Green Lantern outsells the rest by a little bit, but not by much. So I think if you're reading one, you're reading all. And so this is a 6-part, right, between the Green Lantern Corps
and New Guardians.
Yeah, New Guardians, Red Lanterns, obviously Sinestro, and then the Godhead one-shot. So which is a New Gods, which I should say is really bringing the New Gods.
It's not really a 6-issue arc. They're breaking it up into acts.
Right.
So you'll notice the solicitation.
This is month 1.
Month 1, I don't remember what they called the first act, but
I think it's just Godhead.
Godhead, part 1.
Yeah.
Act 1, 2, 3, whatever.
I think it's Act 1, Part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
And I've seen some other events start to do it this way, which is really
this is what they did.
Annoying.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. This is what they did.
They're doing that with the Doomed stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is what they did with Lights Out, where each month is part 1 of an event, and so it basically there's kind of a cool picture for the Godhead one shot where it's Highfather, or I'm assuming it's Highfather. It's someone's hand holding what kind of looks like the Infinity Gem, like not the gauntlet, but there's like the
Cosmic Cube.
The Cosmic Cube. Sorry, not the Infinity Gauntlet. The Cosmic Cube, like with all the rings inside of it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool cover.
So the premise behind this event, which, as I said, the premise makes sense. Because it's the whole idea of the only ones who have ever breached the source wall and know what's behind the source wall at this point are the Lanterns. And specifically, Kyle Rayner, the White Lantern. So the New Guards are basically going in and saying, no, if anybody should have the power over creation, it should be us. So the general sort of premise makes sense, even though I don't necessarily buy into how they're going about it.
So it's basically just another war against the Green Lantern book?
Well, against all the Lantern books.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Highfather is basically, he needs one of each ring.
Well, that's the thing is, Relic was out to get
all the
but this is connected to all that
but
stuff.
That's connected to, but what's been going on so far, I mean, we've just focused on the Green Lanterns, but, I mean, it's just like, it's kind of like, oh, the floodgates open, and so we're going to have everybody attack.
Well, I'm having a Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. sort of reaction to Green Lantern right now, where I gave it a long break, and now I'm catching back up, and I kind of got over my anger towards the switch over, and I'm just kind of okay, it's just Green Lantern comics. I'm just going to enjoy them for what they are, and I've read a couple of the, I'm 3-4 months into the post-John stuff, so, it's fine.
There's parts of it that I would say are not necessarily horrible, but there's a lot to it that just... I've been sort of thinking about this more and more, and there were a lot of interviews made during the switch up on like the different takes they were going to do, how they were going to decompress a little bit, and then they kind of like...
Not at all.
Oh, yeah, exactly, because a lot of the interviews they talked about how they were going to like focus on the police work a little bit more, and like...
No, they've been going like to 11 in every issue.
Yeah, I know. And it just, they went exactly the opposite on that.
Yeah.
And I keep hoping after each of these events, we'll get back to that sort of initial premise of we're going to decompress and focus on like these aspects of the core. And, yeah. I don't know. I'm a big fan of the whole New God stuff. I'm a big fan of Green Lantern. So on paper, this sounds great. And I'm excited to check it out. But
I hope it's not like 6 months of 6-issue crossovers every month. Like if it's 1, 2, 3 months, sure, that's like 20 issues.
Well, I think it's funny that the Batman variant for Green Lantern from last week was the Ethan Van Sciver one, which harkened back to like the early issues of the John's run, and Rebirth, and you're just like, oh, I remember when it was good.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on a little Marvel here before we get to all the new DC books, because there was actually one kind of big Marvel news story from this past week. Matt Fraction, longtime Marvel writer at this point, done a bunch of stuff for them. Writer of Hawkeye, one of the, if not most popular comic sales-wise, definitely a critical success for Marvel, which has been horribly off schedule this year. I think it's running like 5 or 6 months late at this point.
Especially after they had a big cliffhanger, then put out
and then they put in like
without resolving the cliffhanger.
I think it was more than 2, wasn't it? wasn't there like 3 or 4 fill-in issues?
Maybe it was 3, but it just went big cliffhanger to we're going to go focus on the female Hawkeye again for a couple issues.
Yeah, and the dog issue.
The dog issue. Yeah, so
I think it's at least 3. Well, Matt Fraction did post on Twitter the other day, I think this was maybe over the weekend, maybe Friday, that he is working on his last Hawkeye script. So Matt Fraction's wrapping up Hawkeye. I mean, it makes sense. The book is, he's not doing too much right now for Marvel other than Hawkeye.
Because he's doing Sex Criminals.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing Sex Criminals, Satellite Sam. I think there's more Casanova coming, right?
No, I think he has another book coming out.
Yeah, so you see a lot of these guys moving over to Image. It's just pretty common these days. So
is it Odyssey that he's doing?
For Image? I don't know. So if you're a fan of Fraction's Hawkeye, it is coming to an end. It's seemingly.
Or at least he's
leaving it. Yeah,
part of it's
yeah. So that is there's been a lot of good solo, kind of definitely quirky Marvel books recently. I was personally not a fan of Hawkeye, but I know a lot of people that were or are. Silver Surfer, though, She-Hulk, those are both really good. I really like Superior Foes of Spider-Man. Very similar style to Hawkeye, but for some reason that works a little better for me. Although I'm like 2 issues back. I think I missed an issue. I need to go catch up on those. But that's a great book. So
I've been enjoying Elektra and
Iron Fist. I tried. I could not get into Elektra.
I'm not really into Iron Fist. Elektra's fine. Love Black Widow, though.
Yeah, Black Widow.
Yeah, Black Widow's cool. It feels a little kind of, I don't know. Black Widow felt a little...
Yeah. I will say this:
it didn't go as far as some of the other books did.
Surfer is my favorite right now.
Yeah, I like it a lot. So we have a bunch of new DC books coming up. We've got a few that already started. Grayson came out this week. Last week. Teen Titans is this week as we're recording.
You're forgetting the new Suicide Squad.
New Suicide Squad. Right. So there's a bunch of
which there titles. Might be an error in your copy. So be wary. That they didn't print right?
Oh.
Because the staple?
We got a couple damaged, but that's usually pretty localized. But DC has announced, as we know, DC is trying to hit that 52 books a month, and they've been kind of way off that recently. So they have a bunch of new titles coming up. Oh, and a bunch of books are ending, too, so there's even more things on the chopping block. But some of the replacements, we've got our kind of first wave here, past the ones coming up this month. So these all start in October. We have J.M. DeMatteis. DeMatteis. I think it's DeMatteis. I've always said it. I always go back and forth on that. Phantom Stranger and Pandora, as we know, are coming to an end. That's because they're launching a Trinity of Sin comic. Probably the way this should have been from the beginning. Yeah. So we're getting a Phantom Stranger, Pandora, and Question book, ongoing title. Yeah. So to me, that makes way more sense, especially if they're working these guys as supposed to have some connection to each other. And more Question in a comic is fantastic.
Not to mention, they've done a very good job of, through the Pandora book and the Phantom Stranger book, of sort of evolving those characters recently to a state where they're kind of prepared to work together now, versus prior they were very much at odds.
Yeah, well, Phantom Stranger, it feels like the first year or so in that book, just kind of random Phantom Stranger stories. It didn't really... It felt like Pandora, they had moved forward, I thought, a little bit, tying in more with some of the event stuff going on. Phantom Stranger, to me, didn't quite have the same feeling. Just especially that first year or so of Phantom Stranger is very just... Until they got to the Trinity War and all that, then they both pick up.
The first, I want to say 6 issues of Phantom Stranger, that might be a little long, was all like... We're going to introduce the Spectre. We're going to introduce Raven. We're going to introduce... Right. It was very much into the...
Yeah, it was. They were using the character to introduce other characters,
which I was really enjoying.
But what the nice thing though is that they've been tying up that stuff that was early on with the Sin Eater in these later issues. So it's kind of the series as a whole, despite the crossing over with Trinity War and the Blight thing and Forever Evil.
Yeah, the Justice League Dark stuff.
Yeah, it's tying up really nicely towards the end, and Pandora as well is kind of coming to an end. So they're both naturally kind of ending and moving into this, which I think.
Well, their characters are sort of naturally evolving to a point where they're not. they both kind of have been moving away from the we are loners aspect to the no, we have our support people we depend on and stuff. So it makes sense.
One of the other new titles coming up is a new Deathstroke series by Tony Daniel, doing writing and art. Sandu Floria is also doing the art. I don't know what they do, so I'm assuming Tony Daniel is doing most of it. I love Deathstroke. That last series
failed miserably.
Well, yeah.
The first story I liked was okay.
I overall I liked it, except for about 6 issues in the middle where they didn't publish it for 6 months. I don't know what happened there. That's a Rob Liefeld joke. Rob Liefeld took over for 6 months. I just pretend they didn't exist.
You have a gap for some reason.
Yeah, but here's the thing with so many of the new 52 books, they felt completely standalone and inconsequential, and I felt there just wasn't a reason for the Deathstroke title. It wasn't doing anything. They tried to, at the very end, tie it over with Team 7 a little bit, but that book, again, just went nowhere. Felt
Team
pointless.
7 was horrible.
It was okay, but Toby's giving me the sad face. Did you read the new Team 7 comic? I mean, it's not Team 7. It's a totally different book.
I don't know. I guess my mentality is books don't necessarily have to feel like they're super consequential. Like, I don't read She-Hulk thinking or Surfer thinking these are going to...
No, but those are doing something. Those, to me, have a purpose. The Deathstroke book just felt like a good number of those launch titles from the New 52. They felt very directionless. They felt very uninspired. There wasn't
were just churning out stories with the characters.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And Deathstroke is one of the best villains, I think, in comics. Yeah. Obviously, because of the success of Arrow, he's kind of in the spotlight a little bit. He's popular in the video games. Like, this is a character that you could do some awesome stuff with. And if you go back to the Marv Wolfman series back from the 90s, I think there's some good stuff in there. I think I think he did a good job having a villain, but not being just a murderous guy. I mean, Deathstroke, again, is not just someone that goes around killing people left and right. He's an assassin for the most part.
Mercenary.
He's a mercenary. Yeah. So, but especially there was so much backstory to that character in that old version from all the Marv Wolfman, George Perez Teen Titan years. So this new one doesn't have that same level. So hopefully they can build something up with him. I just don't know what they're going to do. At least the art will be pretty.
Yeah.
Because Tony Daniel's great.
Well, I mean, his appearance in the new Suicide Squad from this week was... it was okay. I mean, I wasn't like, ooh, it's Deathstroke's in. It was kind of just like, okay. But I mean, in general, the whole Suicide Squad book was, I'm going to have to read more before I can say any more about it, because it's kind of just like, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, Deathstroke is always cool. I'm always looking forward to more Deathstroke. I own every issue of every Deathstroke comic except for those 6 that magically never got published. So there you go. All that 90s stuff. We talk about our binding projects here from time to time for the comic binding stuff. I'm got that back half of Teen Titans I'm still working on. I mean, it's done. I think it's done. I just have to actually bring it down to the bindery and get it done. But I need to move all the Deathstroke books into the tie-ins in because there's so many crossovers.
I think I still need to track down at least one Deathstroke book for my outsiders.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So, so here's kind of like a 3-part story. It involves a creative team shift.
Like a 3-act story.
It involves a creative team shift on a book. It involves some kind of backroom dealings on maybe why they left, and then the launch of a new title. So we'll start with the big story from the last week. Gail Simone is once again off Batgirl. Being replaced by Cameron Stewart and Brendan Fletcher. Cameron Stewart, a fantastic writer and artist. So, very curious there.
I like a lot of the designs and stuff they've put out around the new book.
Yeah. We'll get to part of this first. There's some kind of weird reason that Gail Simone left Batgirl. So, she publicly kind of stated that she left Batgirl because she didn't get fired. She just left. She worked on the book for quite a long 3 years. Right, it's a long time to do in the book. One of the main reasons she left is over creative differences with the editor. That being that the editor of a lot of the Bat Family books was saying that, hey, we want dark, which Gail did very well. But Batgirl was a pretty damn dark book, really. Yeah, I mean, I mean, all of that books are, but Batgirl,
lopping off limbs. And,
it was pretty dark. And then the editor left right after she. I don't know if he got fired. I don't know if he left. I don't know the whole story. But so she left, and now the new editor says, "Hey, we want Batgirl to be light and fun."
Yeah.
And Gale's off the book. So kind of weird situation. I don't know if I don't know what happened with the editor. I don't know if he left. I don't know if he may have been part of that whole DC relocation deal to LA.
Well, that's what they were indicating online. It was the choosing not to do the relocate thing.
Okay. Well, it's unfortunate that she didn't stick around.
Yeah.
Gail Simone is a great Batgirl.
Well,
but at any point you gotta people move on. And Cameron Stewart is a great replacement.
This is sort of my mentality on it. Is yes, I loved Gail Simone's Batgirl, but she's moving on to another title for DC. And all the initial stuff that they've sort of released with the new design and that kind of stuff actually looks cool to me. It looks different.
We'll get to that in a minute.
It actually has me a bit excited to check out the new book.
We'll get to that in a minute. Toby's cracking his knuckles over there. Huh? Toby's ready for a fight.
I would have thought he would like the new designs.
I do, actually.
The new book that Gale is supposedly working on, to quote Gail Simone, she says, this is from the London Film and Comic Con. She says, "Guys, I can't tell what my new book is because it's a secret. It's a secret project full of secrets, and it's secret, so secret."
Did you say it 6 times?
There's been one book that a lot of people have been asking for since the New 52 has come back, and that is, I think, one of DC's best and most clever pre-New 52 books, and that is Gail Simone's Secret 6 title, which was fantastic.
I actually have it bound. I need to sit down and read it.
The problem is most of these characters, a lot of these characters don't exist. Well, half these characters don't really exist post New 52, so I'm not sure how they're going to work this. But
I mean, Deadshot's in Suicide Squad.
Deadshot's there. Ragman was reintroduced. Bane is there, but he's not really the same Bane. I mean, he's kind of a way old school Bane at this point. Catman, to the best of my knowledge, has not shown up. What's her name? I'm blanking.
You mean Vandal Savage's daughter?
Yo, Vandal Savage, not Ra's al Ghul. Yeah. Scandal Savage. I don't believe has shown up. Has she?
Didn't she show up in like a DC Universe Presents?
Well, there was a DC Universe Presents that had Vandal Savage's daughter, and she was a cop.
Yeah.
But is that Scandal?
I can't remember.
I don't know.
I mean, that was DC Universe Presents. That
okay.
was like,
that
was like 2 years ago.
It was a great read.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
It came right after Dan Didio's Challengers story arc.
Which was abysmal.
Yeah.
So, very excited for the possible return of Secret 6.
Yeah.
But Batgirl. Cameron Stewart's Batgirl. Now, I guess what's I have to say about this?
Go for it.
You're only angry about the one picture with her taking a selfie.
I'm not angry about any of it.
But that could be just a picture that an artist drew.
Selfie variant.
Here is my reaction to this.
Is there such a thing as selfie variants?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's next month. That's the next month's DC variant month.
Why?
Is selfies.
Is everyone taking selfies?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Why?
So they could come out with variants that you don't want to buy?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, DC. For once, I will not buy your comics.
So,
except you might get that Grayson selfie variant.
Nope.
Here is where...
Is he naked?
Here is where, comic reader Ryan Higgins and retailer Ryan Higgins are become at odds. And this happens fairly regularly, like, let's say, ordering New Warriors for the shelf. Retailer Ryan Higgins is like, burn that book. Comic reader Ryan Higgins is like, but it's the New Warriors. I love Cameron Stewart. I think the new Batgirl costume looks slick as hell. I think it's super clever. I think he's a great artist. It's not very traditional, but that's cool. It's a neat story.
Makes her look a lot younger, too.
Yeah,
that's where I have the issue.
Here's the problem, though. I don't think this is going to sell at all. I think we're going to get 6, maybe 8 issues in. Creative team gone. This book's going to tank. And I hate to say it.
I mean, Gail Simone's run on Batgirl has been amazing. Like, from the get-go. from what she gave us from the character.
But let's look at this honestly. The sales on Batgirl kind of suck.
Well, yeah,
it's selling about 30,000 copies. It's down to about 1,000 copies a month. I looked. I think that was the May. We may have new numbers now, but I didn't check this month's. I understand DC maybe wanting to change direction a little bit on the title. Maybe whether that's leaving Gale, maybe that's bringing in kind of a new push to the book. Now, there is, like Hawkeye, there's a very good chance that this book could blow up huge, right? And double its numbers overnight. There's absolutely a possibility. And I am not stupid enough to go into this book ordering nothing. However, this is a title to me that is very tricky because you're going to have a general amount of people that are willing to buy basically any DC comic. You're going to have a number of people willing to buy basically any Batman comic. So you have some level of kind of guaranteed sales with books like this. To me, it's, does DC think the amount of people that want to see this version of Batgirl is larger than the amount of people that want to see the slightly more traditional version of Batgirl? Now, from the customers that I've heard from directly, it is a resounding no, that this is not the book that they want. Again, this is not people on Tumblr. This is actual customers that will come into the store. I've talked with many of them, and they have all said, this does not look interesting. I'm not interested in Batgirl at this past, once this starts. That doesn't mean they won't pick them up. They could all change their mind after reading the first issue. But this is where what the internet says that people want and what people actually want always come into conflict with me. Because when you
does the internet actually want this?
1,000 people on Tumblr want it. That's the problem. That's not 30,000 people that are going to buy the book, though.
But they just only released a couple of pictures.
Right. And 1,000 people on Tumblr
are up in arms?
Love it. The problem is, how many of those people...
Well, they love what exactly, though?
They love that it's... See, there's kind of the trick, right?
Yeah.
They love that it's this thing that they think they love, but will they actually buy it? The problem is, random people online may love something. That doesn't mean they're going to pay a penny for it.
Well, they just download it.
Right. I know you don't always want to cater to the same aging in-store audience. You want to try to find a new audience. So I applaud this move. I think it's a good move. I absolutely think DC should do this. I think it's going to sell poorly. I think it's a good chance to try to get people in to buy something different. But I think a lot of traditional fans will not enjoy this. And will new fans coming in replace the amount of traditional fans? I don't know. Now, you have a couple... There's various ways that... Like, something like She-Hulk hasn't been published in a while. The character has changed pretty drastically since her last, I would say, successful series would be like the John Byrne stuff. You had Dan Slott doing in the early 2000s, mid 2000s.
I mean, the new one has kind of a Dan Slott feel.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
But you could take, I think, a character like She-Hulk or Elektra or Black Widow. I think you can kind of take some risk with. You could kind of do some stuff. Batgirl is probably as traditional of a DC character as you can get. I mean, maybe short of Wonder Woman for like a female character.
I could tell you where the risk was, is making her Batgirl again.
Right, but which paid off, though.
You think?
For DC, absolutely. We love Oracle. No one knows who Oracle is. Regular people don't know who Oracle is. People don't... This may sound terrible. People don't cosplay as Oracle. Batgirl is...
that's really horrible. Awesome.
Batgirl
the internet is coming down on Ryan Higgins.
We so need somebody to cosplay as Oracle, though.
Oh, people have. Awesome. People have. But Batgirl is one of the...
What's wrong with Stephanie Batgirl? Cassie Batgirl?
It's not Batgirl. It's not the
yes,
Batgirl
it is.
People. It's not the Batgirl people
know.
It's
not the people...
This comes back to like
they explained a lot of this had to do with the fact that they wanted characters to go back to their most recognizable form.
99% of people on Earth think Dick Grayson is Robin, right? That's Robin. They don't know a Damian or Tim or Jason Todd. So where I'm going with this is I appreciate the attempts to stuff like this. However, it is rare. Strictly on a sales perspective, it's rare that these type of things succeed. I don't see a large group of non-traditional comic readers flooding shops to buy this comic. Well, it'll sell. It'll sell well. Issue number 1 will sell well. People will pick it up. But I think within an arc,
wait, they're ending Gale.
No, that's part of my problem with it is that it's number 35, right?
Right.
And
I don't think they should relaunch it, but what I'm saying is I don't want it to relaunch again. You don't have to do this. I just don't see people coming in to pick this up.
I guess my mentality on it is, and don't get me wrong, I love everything that Gail Simone's done on the book and whatnot, but it kind of feels like if they were going to push for sort of the younger feel in the art and that kind of stuff, that should have been done at the launch of New 52.
Sure.
It's just a little late into it.
Well, you've had course correction like Superman and the Jeff Johns stuff, so you've had, Deathstroke looks like this kind of course correction, and Green Arrow far away. So like I said, I am not against this move. I
just think going from issue 34 to 35 is going to be very extremely jarring.
Well, you have
unless are they saying this is her younger years? Are they kind of go backwards?
Well,
are they going like this is in a different time?
Well, so the plot is, she says, I've had enough of Gotham. She moves to a hip area of Gotham, and she says, I'm going to go back to grad school.
Oh God,
finish grad school.
That's exactly what I was afraid of. This is a tie-in to get people to go to Gotham Academy.
Gotham Academy, they're not. That's not grad school. I don't think that's like that's like high school. They're like middle school.
Yeah, but
high
that's
school.
Still it's bringing it into that kind of.
I don't think it has anything to do with it.
I mean, when I first looked at it, my first instinct was they're turning Barbara into Stephanie, really.
Yeah. She looks like Stephanie.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first thought I had. And I was like, I felt that was really weird because you're kind of almost... They're probably not, but it looks like they're de-aging Barbara.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in that case, it's like, why are you turning one character to another that we already had to begin with?
Right.
I mean, I like the costume. I like the new takes on it, but... I'm not sure where the story is going.
It would be hilarious if they're just keeping tight-lipped and it turns out not to be Barbara. That would be hilarious.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, everything they've said. It's her and her whole thing. Oh, she's going to grad school. She's going to do this stuff. She moves To me, I understand you don't want the book to be dark, but you still have to have conflict. It's still a comic book. It's still a comic book in Gotham in the Batman universe. You still have to expect some sort of, again, traditional comic book setups of supervillains and fighting and action and everything like that. So I expect that's going to be there to some degree, but how exactly are they going about it? And I'm concerned that they're going
this. Okay, so Charlie, you've read the last issue, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it might be the case where yes, this is not Barbara because the way they're
it's Barbara.
Well, the way they're setting it up in the comic book, it might not necessarily be that Barbara's still around.
I mean, they have said it's Barbara. It's Barbara Gordon. I mean, solicitation is Barbara Gordon is no stranger to dusting herself off when disaster strikes. So when a fire destroys everything she owned, she spots the opportunity for a new lease on life and seizes it. Following the rest of Gotham's young adults to the hip border district of Burnside, Barbara sets about building an all-new Batgirl and discovers all-new threats preying on her peers. It's a reinvention of Batgirl from the boots up by the incredible creative team of Cameron Stewart, Brenda Fletcher, and rising comic star Babs Tarr.
Either way, I like a lot of the initial design. So
he did the design and the covers, and not doing the interior art.
I'm excited to actually see what they churn out.
Yeah. So again, this is that conflicting point that that this is what I have to deal with.
Listen to Rita Ryan in this case and just be excited.
Here's what here's exactly what I'm doing. I'm ordering a whole bunch of extra copies of the first issue, and after a week, I will decrease or increase my orders as see fit
Ryan is coming
for the next issue. I mean, I'm not going to just be like, exchange, burn it. I am curious how this will be. It's difficult to have your more traditional readers and kind of what you expect, and then the new readers and what's going to happen. There are some points where I think it works, and there are some points where I can look at it right off the bat and go, yep, this looks perfect. This looks like a great change. I think this will work. This looks like a case where I go, yep, this looks like it's internet pandering, and this is what some people want. But I think this misses the point of, again, I hate to say traditional comic fans because the phrase doesn't really exist these days. I'm worried about where this takes the character, and I don't foresee this being a long-term change. I'm expecting we're going to get 6 to 8 issues out of it, and then a creative team shift and a return to a slightly more traditional phase, as this does not work as well. Sales-wise. Again,
like it says in
sales is all that matters.
She's going back to college. She's going to experiment a little, Then once she's done experimenting, she'll go back.
Maybe. I mean...
What? I mean...
There are some books like Miss Marvel.
That's a different book you're talking about, Brock.
When Miss Marvel came out, I mean, I know we talked about that. I expected, sales to be really strong for the first issue and plummet afterwards. Sales are better than I expected on Miss Marvel. It's still not, a best-selling book by any stretch of the imagination. The sort of shaky release schedule will hurt the book probably in the end more than anything. But, I will say Miss Marvel definitely has sold better than I expected, but it is not changing the face of comic books. It's another mid to low tier title that will end after 18 issues. I mean, I still think that's exactly what's going to happen. The creative team will leave after 12 or whatever, and the book will be gone. This is how I see Batgirl. When you take Barbara Gordon as Batgirl relaunch, she exists on a level so much higher than almost any other female comic book character. The popularity of Barbara Gordon, the popularity of Batgirl.
She's been in the movies.
She is one of the most popular female characters, and to me, this feels like a tough sell for some fans, and that's all I have to say about that. I'm excited as a reader. I'm excited as a retailer. A little nervous.
Okay, so what's our next topic?
That's our topic. We have more stuff to talk about.
Don't we have questions?
We do have some questions. We got a bunch of questions here.
Toby's holding up some books. One has morning sickness, and the other one is trying to hypnotize you.
Okay.
I read books for once.
Okay. You want to talk about some comic books?
Yes.
He's read some books.
Okay, talk about some comic books.
Segment. What is it? What should we call it?
I want to say the first part of Injustice was fucking phenomenal in number 7. I kind of picked it up just because I'm a Black Canary fan, but the interaction between her and...
All right, hold on.
Awesome.
Let's pull it back a little bit. Injustice.
Yes.
Comic book based on the video game.
Yes.
Year 2, issue 7.
Right, been running for a while.
Yes.
We're on a second season.
I know Charlie's been saying it's really
year
good.
2.
I actually haven't picked it up yet. But.
This is like the precursor storyline to Injustice. Or have they moved past the game in series 2?
As far as I know, it's still a precursor.
Yeah. Okay.
It's still pretty much a precursor. I think it's...
I'm getting a little confused since they've solicited a year 3.
Can I say what happens in here?
The game gave you a little bit in the beginning, and the first year built up to that, and this is kind of in between.
No, I mean this is after.
In between, because remember in the game, Superman.
This is the joys of trying not to spoil everything.
Can I just say spoilers and talk about this?
Hold on. Spoilers for the Injustice comic books for the next couple of minutes. If you don't want to hear about it,
and the game.
Fast forward 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay, can I talk about this?
So
talk about it all you want.
Okay. In this one, Oliver is killed by Superman.
Which is how they end year 1, basically.
Which has happened in the game or no?
It had already happened in the game.
It had already happened in the game, and it happened. There's some pre-game stuff.
Does Superman also kill Joker?
Yes. That's
Ollie's in Green or Ollie's in Injustice.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is. Voiced by Stephen Amell. He's a playable character.
He is a playable character, but I think he's the good universe Ollie, not the bad universe.
You're talking about
the bad universe, or the Injustice universe. Ollie is killed.
Yeah. Yes, that's
so.
The
Is
joys
this Harley
of
like
universes.
A good universe Harley?
No, that's the Injustice universe Harley.
So she's actually good.
Yes.
Oh, no wonder. Yeah. But it was a really...
Everything's relative when Superman goes evil.
Yeah. No, that was a really cool issue, though. And I mean...
No, the whole
throwing
premise...
back at the Barbara thing, she's in a wheelchair.
The whole premise of Injustice is Joker basically tricks Superman into killing Lois Lane, who is pregnant with Superman's baby at the time. So Superman completely and totally wigs out, kills Joker, and basically... declares himself ruler of the world, and he will keep everybody safe. And
wow,
wow. Basically, it's the I can't trust you people not to commit atrocities, so I'm in charge now.
And so some people went on Superman's side, and then other people go on, of course, Batman's side,
who is very much with the
Well, this number 7 was really intriguing. I'm actually tempted to read all of it at this point.
It's a great comic book. I am 6 issues behind or something now.
Yeah, we're both a little bit. Yeah. And I mean, it's branched off also into Green Lantern spinoff, right? Or is that in the back of the book?
There's some there's Green Lantern stuff in the back.
They have some Green Lantern.
And there's actually a third story in the very, very back too.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I was very amused. I really liked this Black Canary story. There's some really good.
It's one of the digital first.
Well, it started really heavy. It started really lighthearted and then went really heavy, really fast. Which I was like, that's a cool story arc. Now Grayson.
Oh, we're moving on.
Grayson is
okay.
Cool.
Now we're going to go into spoilers for Grayson, probably.
Oh, this is a cool book. I mean.
And you know what? Hold on. I actually bring something up here real quick.
Yeah.
Prior to the launch of Grayson, I had many fans of Nightwing said, this looks stupid. Forget this book. This
I
looks
wasn't
crap.
one of those.
But it sold like crazy, sold really well, and really well received. So, going back to the Batgirl thing, just to go back to that for a second, I'm not saying Batgirl's going to flop. You know, when I ordered Grayson, I ordered kind of low because a lot of people were sort of like, I don't know. But the proof is in the pudding, as I say, and it's a good book. So
you guys all know Nightwing is one of my favorite characters of all time.
Yep.
And looking at this cover, the pink one, where he looks all kind of douchey with a giant-ass gun, didn't make me very intrigued by this book at all.
I concur.
But by opening this book, the art is completely changed, and it's really, really cool. Completely different from the cover. I don't understand why the interior guy couldn't just do the covers himself. And the book reads like a total Nightwing book. The only difference is he's just not in a Nightwing suit. I mean, he's... Spoiler, can I talk spoilers?
Yeah,
Spoiler? He is basically, it seems like he's undercover on an undercover mission.
That's what he is.
Right. So, I mean, that's fucking...
Yeah. Did you read Forever Evil number 7?
Undercover super spy now,
no,
basically.
Because I was afraid that they were going to kill one of my favorite characters.
Well, at the end of 7, basically everyone thinks Nightwing is dead.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
And so Batman goes, I have a mission for you. You have to take the suit off.
Yeah.
Let's go. And that's where it ends.
And this is really, really cool. And Helena, I guess, wasn't introduced in the New 52 yet?
Not the traditional... They had Huntress pretending to be... like
Helena.
Earth 2 Huntress pretending to be Helena.
But she's not Helena?
She's Earth 2
Helena.
She's
so this is New 50...
Bruce and Selena's daughter.
So that is New 52...
Helena, the old Huntress that had issues with Batman, is basically this Huntress. This is her introduction.
She's not Huntress at this point, but
that's fine. Yeah, but this is her introduction, basically.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, the daughter of the mob boss, Helena Bertinelli is
not the daughter of Selena and Bruce.
Right. That's the post-crisis. Huntress.
Well, I mean, back to what you were saying about Batgirl, like the transition from what Batgirl, like the Batgirl to the new one, right, is jarring. The transition for diehard Nightwing fans from him being Nightwing to him not being Nightwing is jarring.
No, it's not jarring at all if you read it.
If you read it, but like for me, I don't read Nightwing, and then seeing that he was, I'm like, I knew he died in Forever Evil, and I'm like, well, what are they going to do with this character now that because he's outed in Forever Evil as being Nightwing, and so what are you going to do with this character? And for them to take him and spin him into a secret agent type of role works because he's been a cop, he's been a vigilante, he like the natural progression, especially with his talents and his genius level of intellect. Being a secret agent is perfect for Dick Grayson to go into. So for me, initially, I was like, "Oh, that kind of sucks for Nightwing," but with what's going on, it worked. So I read it and I was like, this is cool. And then I saw that Helena was in it. I'm like, oh, cool.
See, I liked all that. I found the fight with Midnighter kind of weird, partly because I didn't know who to root for in that fight.
What? No, that's easy. You root for Nightwing.
Well, there's no Nightwing in that book.
But
yeah, it is.
Midnighter's supposed to be up there on Batman level martial arts and that kind of stuff.
And didn't something happen to Stormwatch in Forever Evil?
No, in Future's End.
Future's End. Yeah. Oh, so okay.
So they're okay right now.
They're okay. All right. Just
anyways, as a big Nightwing fan, as a Bat Universe guy, that likes Helena and stuff like that, I love this book, and I felt it's very fresh. I was bummed that Kyle Higgins was off of Nightwing, but this is kind of a new, fresh take. I kind of like it. I'm definitely looking forward to the next issue, big time, actually.
Cool.
This kind of has the feel of that Gambit series that we had last time around.
Yeah.
It's very similar. So for me, I'm like in heaven. I had an awesome Gambit series, and now I'm getting a really cool Grayson series. So cool. I'm all in.
Toby likes his G's.
So we got a couple questions here. Actually, got a couple emails. I got some Twitter questions too, but
what is this?
We'll do some emails.
1998?
It's from Felix. He says, "Hey guys, long-time listener, but I only started reading comics recently. I've read a lot of the books you've talked about favorably, and now I have several titles I keep up with. I wanted to ask about the Legion of Superheroes, since I'm having a bit of trouble finding out where to start. I was a fan of the Legion cartoon, so I wanted to read more stuff about them. I didn't really dig the New 52 stuff, so I decided not to start there. Where would you recommend I start?"
I have a list online.
There are. I have 4 books. I have 4 books that I'll suggest. One way over the others. You need to track down the Jeff Johns Superman and the Legion of Superheroes trade paperback.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah. By far the best introduction to the Legion in modern comics. This is a complete. You have to understand a little basis for the Legion are, but he does a pretty good job of going in pretty early and kind of showing you young Clark Kent and the Legion coming and meeting him and everything. So if you've never read a Legion comic, I think it's a great place to start.
Felix, we have a copy here at the shop. You can call Ryan.
We have a hardcover version
and
too.
A hardcover too, but you can call Ryan to order it. Fantastic book. By far and away, one of my absolute favorite comics from the Jeff Johns Superman run. I mean, that is actually my favorite over the...
It's got Gary Frank art.
Yeah.
He's pretty darn good.
Over the Last Sun arc, over the Brainiac stuff, the Legion arc.
And doesn't he kind of make Superman look like Christopher Reeve?
Oh, 100%.
I kind of like that too.
100%.
Not a bonus.
Yeah.
Not a bonus.
Yeah. If you like that and you don't mind small school comics, there is a hardcover, The Great Darkness Saga, which is traditionally regarded as the best Legion story ever told. Again, it's a 70s, 80s style.
It's a different read.
It is. It's different. But, if you don't mind older comics, go read that. Hardcover's like $40 or $50 or something, but it's a chunk of a book.
Yeah.
I mean, you get like 2 years of Legion stories in there. It's a huge story. It's a ton of book. It's really good. And that is, again, some of the best. And a lot of that Legion cartoon based off that run. So there's a lot of stuff in there you'll recognize. The next 2 are a little bit deeper. I don't know which ones are still in print, but Mark Waid did about 30-some-odd issues of Legion. There's a couple.
There's about 50 issues in that run total.
Ignore anything past when he left. This was the mid.
Did Paul Evans pick it up?
Yeah, I don't remember, but it was not that good. There is like mid 2000s.
Yeah.
There's about, I want to say, 2 or 3 volumes, and then there's a couple volumes of Supergirl and the Legion of Superheroes that Mark Waid was involved with. All very good. A kind of retelling of the Legion kind of gives you it's sort of as you'll find out in a minute, it's sort of a reboot of the Legion concept. So there are some traditional elements in there that you may not know because it's kind of references for old fans. But overall, I think a pretty good new take on the Legion and the best you're going to find more recently. The Legion Superheroes arc in Superman is the Earth 1 Legion. This is the original take. This is the classic Legion. They've grown up in the comics. They've kind of gone on and grown up a little bit. And if you've read all those and your brain hasn't exploded, but you want your brain to explode,
I know exactly where you're going now.
You have to read Legion of Three Worlds.
This is the first Legion book I read.
I'm surprised you're still here.
My brain was... I shit you not. I was reading that going, what the fuck is... Like, there is so... The Legion is big.
Oh, yeah.
But then you take 3 worlds...
3 legions.
And add them together. I was so lost reading that. But like I plowed through and I read more. I read the Superman Legion, Johns did, and I read the Mark Waid stuff and the Paul Levitt stuff.
Yeah,
and I even read the stuff that he did before the New 52.
Right.
And the adventure comic stuff as well.
Yeah.
But I went back and reread after I read those.
Makes a lot more sense.
Makes a lot more sense.
So this was during Final Crisis. There was a couple spin-offs, and they did he did a
6 issue?
Yeah, it was a 6 issue. miniseries, Jeff Johns and George Perez, on Legion of Three Earths, or Legion of Three Worlds, which was the original Legion. Yep. So the Legion from that Superman and the Legion of Superheroes trade. You have the I can't remember the number. It's like Earth 395 or something like that, which is the Legion from the Mark Waid reboot. And then you have the post 0 Hour Legion? That's the one with Gates.
Yeah.
So you have basically the 3 different incarnations of the Legions, because post 0 Hour, there sort of was a reboot for a number of years, and they kind of brought back the original, and then there was the Mark Waid version. So this is a combination of all 3 Legion groups with a lot of the same characters in a big, giant crossover fight against all their villains and the Time Trapper, and like they've revealed in each universe kind of who the Time Trapper is. He's kind of their big main villain. And again, another take on who the Time Trapper is. Oh man, it's so good. And if I'm not mistaken, does that have is Legion of Three Worlds the final page is when they're on the computer? Is that Legion of Three Worlds?
That's not.
No, I just remember Legion of Three Worlds was like the big. They brought back Bart and they brought back Superboy in that, didn't they?
Yeah.
In Legion of Three Earths, or Legion of Three Worlds, they brought back Bart Allen and Superboy, who had both been killed previous events, and it has what I think is one of the single best pages in comic books. The final page of Legion of Three Worlds, with the villain has been revealed and all this stuff happening, and it has one of the funniest things like in comic book history to me. Just so good. It makes me like, this is what I love about comic books. The craziness of what happens on the last page of the series is so fantastic. I love it so much.
Now everyone's going to want to blow their brains up and read Legion of Three Worlds first.
It's great. I mean, don't. but it is great.
Read it, then go read the other stuff, and then go back and read it.
Like I did.
Right. I mean,
I think I have a list on my blog of the Legion reading materials. Like, especially like all the trade names and stuff.
Yeah, the New 52 version is not good.
The New 52 version was not good. The Legion Lost from the New 52 was good.
I like that better.
That one was enjoyable. And the original Legion Lost is a good.
Well, that is one of the big, and that's the end of that post.
Yeah.
The Legion Lost is the post 0 Hour kind of the 3-boot, as they call it. Because you had the reboot of the Legion in the 80s when they did like the 5-year later jump, and this was called the 3-boot. So Legion is very confusing, but I love it. I love it so much. I do love it so much.
All right, next question or email.
And you guys read Nailbiter from Image?
No.
I read the issue 1.
Okay. Well, Tyler says, hey guys, I really enjoy indie books and was thinking about checking out the new series Nailbiter. Have any of you guys gotten a chance to read issue 1? If so, what do you think? Also, on a more broad topic, what is your favorite indie series if you had to just pick one? Thanks, and keep up the sweet podcast.
So, I liked issue 1 of Nailbiter. It did get very, very dark, but dark can be interesting too. But I only read the issue 1. I think they're up to issue 4 or 3 now.
I think 3 just came out.
Yeah. I don't know. I need to catch up. But no, issue 1 definitely kind of piqued my interest and made me want to read more.
Good release for the first issue. Decent enough to keep reading. Yeah. I didn't have a chance to read. We sold out of number 1 super quick. We got the second prints in, but I haven't grabbed them all yet to read them. I actually had someone else on Twitter.
We're not going to answer the second part.
Well, no, I was going to. Someone else on Twitter asked the same thing. Basically, what's your favorite indie comic right now? So we can answer that right now. I don't know if I'm just in a lull of what I'm reading right now, but I've tried a lot of new number 1s, and not a lot has kind of grabbed me. So I'm going to default to something that
you didn't read Grayson, did you?
No, I mean, of like a lot of indie books. It's not that I think they're bad. It's just there's so many books to read, and sometimes I'm in like a real big superhero mode. Sometimes I'm in a real big indie comics mode. I kind of go back and forth. I think I'm just more in a bigger superhero mode right now. So I'm just there's just nothing. I don't want to say nothing's grabbing me, but I'm just a couple of the series I was reading. I kind of faded out on 5 Ghosts. I have a couple issues to still finish up, but that's over now. That just finished up. Peter Pan's Faust.
It's still going.
Is it? Five Ghosts?
Yeah.
Is there more issues being solicited?
I would assume
it might be on a break.
I think maybe it's on a break or something.
As far as I know, it's not over.
Okay.
I read the last issue. It didn't make me go, okay, now it's...
That's weird. Yeah, I thought maybe I hadn't seen it in previews. Maybe I just missed it. Peter Pan's Faust, I'm still really liking. Again, I'm in issue 2 back way, but that's kind of on an erratic schedule, so you can read that. But by far and away, Southern Bastards right now, favorite indie comic. I knew it was going to be it, but it is. Jason Aaron. Brock is surprised I like anything Jason Aaron writes because it's all about hillbillies.
I'm just surprised you read something that's about hillbillies.
But Southern Bastards is fantastic.
Jason Aaron does hillbillies so well.
He does. Jason Aaron is so fantastic. He's such a great writer. And just guy goes back to his hometown. We talked about this before. Guy goes back to his hometown to his father dies.
Settle up his father's estate.
And he gets just kind of embroiled back in that small southern town politics again. And by politics, I mean beating people to death with baseball bats. So there you go. Great book. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, that's a very good book.
Go after.
You feel like you've kind of dropped a bunch of stuff, Charlie.
I talk about a lot of the indie books I like quite a bit. Like I love Velvet. Velvet's a great read.
That's way off schedule, huh? I feel like that hasn't seen a new issue in months.
It's been erratic the last couple issues.
Yeah, but Velvet I really like. Lazarus I enjoy quite a bit. Obviously, I have to kind of give a shout out for the more modern Turtles. That's been a very fun.
That's like another one that I just sort of dropped off on.
Well, like a lot of things, once you reach a certain amount of issues, it's harder to keep up on it. But I do really appreciate the fact that they're kind of combining certain elements from the various TV shows and comic books and all that. It's sort of the closest I kind of feel like I've gotten that kind of just pulls everything in and sort of celebrates everything that is Turtles. So that's really kind of cool that way. East of West I love for like the post-apocalyptic nature of it, and plus I like the Four Horsemen. They're always fun. But no, there's a lot of good indie books out there. I could literally just go down the shelves right now and go, I like that one, and I like that one.
Black Science is still really good too.
Oh yeah, Black Science is also a very fun sci-fi sort of parallel universe.
And I'm very curious because Low comes out this week or next week. It's pretty soon. That's the other recommender Image book. Really looking forward to that. Yeah. Brock, you got one you're digging right now?
I mean, I'm definitely still enjoying Saga, but that's pretty much everyone's independent favorite right now, I think. I'm really enjoying Southern Bastards. Most of the ones you guys have said I've been really enjoying. Was it...
Well, you picked an indie book for your book of the month.
Well, yeah, but it's technically over, so it's the Dead Body Road is over, but the author, Justin Jordan, right? I believe it's Justin Jordan. He did Spread, which came out this week.
Yeah,
which, I actually read.
Here's the funny thing. So a lot of people are like, oh, it's an Image #1. Oh, everyone's going to buy it. Here's a perfect example of like 2 books coming out the same week with such... I thought would be on some form of level of sales with such dramatically different sales. So Spread, which looked okay, but I didn't have a lot to go with when I ordered it.
Yeah,
it kind of seemed a little...
It's definitely a book that like the first issue grabs you, but it's definitely a slower...
Well, just from strictly cover solicitation info, I wasn't jumping, so I kind of did like a generic, like 5 copies or whatever. And what's that other one that
Death Vigil?
Death Vigil looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks awesome, and
didn't sell a copy.
Yeah, I read it. It was okay.
Looks fantastic, and nobody bought one. Spread kind of looks okay. Sold out Wednesday, like instantly. All right, well. This thing. Why did no one I thought it looked great and no one bought it.
No, I read,
just weird how that happens.
I read Death Vigil and except for kind of it repeating itself for 4 pages, it had an interesting concept. It's like Death has her people that protect the living, and then there's everyone on the other side who is trying to break over, and so it's kind of like demons and all this stuff. I mean, it's interesting concept. Looks interesting. I mean, art looked amazing on it. Good setup to the first issue, except it dragged a little bit in the middle. But hey, I was like, cool.
But people didn't know that till they bought it.
Yeah. Well, and this is the funny thing is I was like, okay, I'll check this out. Checked it out. Came back to the shop, today and was like, oh, look, nobody bought it, so I'm not going to even get a chance to look at issue number 2. Because that's
if I don't sell one copy of one, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Why would I order more number 2s? Like maybe I'll order one copy in case someone picks it up in the next couple of weeks, but I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, but Justin Jordan, my comic book club selection is a Dead Body Road, but Spread was really, really good. So I mean, honestly, my favorite hat probably have to be, Manifest Destiny's just been really, really good. I mean, it's a really interesting take on some Americana and history in America, and
plus it can really go anywhere.
Yeah, and it's
that book.
And I mean the way that they give they're building characters and they bring the story about, and it's kind of like it's. I mean, from the reading the last issue, I was like, ooh, this can go anywhere, and I've been really enjoying it. So, those are mine.
I got one last question here before we wrap up.
No emails.
This is an email. Ooh. The last 2 were emails. It's all emails today.
Oh, nice.
Toby, you got an indie book you want to plug?
Nah.
You're not reading anything. It's from Tom. Says, hey guys, love the show. This email's only 2 months old. So,
only 2 months old.
Yeah, we're catching up. Picking a few old and new. I'm not what you'd call an avid comic fan. I have a couple series I've followed for a long time. I've read Walking Dead since issue 1. I read Why the Last Man start to finish.
Yay.
I've been reading through Fables, and I read Batman Monthly since the New 52 relaunch.
Yay.
I want to read more, but I am a completionist by nature, so jumping into some of the long-running superhero series seems overwhelming. Is it necessary to catch up on the backstory, or are my own neuroses getting in the way? How can I quickly catch up on a series? If I don't need to catch up, how do I identify good jumping-on points? Sorry for the long question. Thanks for reading. Now that I've read that, I feel like I've read this before. If I answered this like 2 months ago on a podcast, I apologize. I don't think I did, though.
No, we didn't answer. We've answered.
Okay.
We've
similar
answered
questions
similar to this before. But I mean, it's.
Well, I have one base answer that I always give to people. No one has read every Superman comic since Action Comics #1. Jump in whatever looks
well, there's
good.
got to be at least one guy.
Charlie.
I'm sure there's
pretty close.
But from Action #1 published to launch, no.
I challenged to Charlie to do it. He might do it.
I'm sure someone has read them all since, but right. I always say grab whatever looks good. If you like it, you can go buy back issues. You can catch up with older stuff. There's always a way to do it. Go on Wikipedia. Go on message boards. Ask us. Marvel and DC relaunch their books all the time now, so you can kind of just whenever grab a new #1.
Well, especially with Batman. Like take Batman, for example. I mean, I'm not going to tell somebody to go back and read Batman #1. But I'm definitely going to go guide them to like Long Halloween and Hush and
so many books are arc based now.
Yeah.
So if you just want to read Death of the Family, give them the Death of the Family trade. You know who Batman is. I don't have to worry about it. Actually, I think if you've read every Batman comic ever, it would be way more confusing than if you've only read a couple, because you have this sort of like world view of what Batman is instead of all the nitty gritty little specifics.
It's kind of like the unwritten rule of the timeline, right? It's like Frank Miller's Year 1 is Year 1. There's that Year 2 book, and you kind of.
But then Year 2 is completely ignored.
Yeah, but you know what? There's this. It depends on what you want to be real and what not real. There's this unwritten timeline of books that you can. There's the Long Halloween, and you eventually you go to Hush, and eventually you're current.
Yeah.
So
the way I always look at it, especially when you get into stuff like John's just started Superman, like that's a great jumping on point to kind of get a sense of, is this a book you want to start following? Because that's what that issue is intended to be. It's intended to be a jumping on point. And when they relaunch the Batgirl book, that will be intended to be a jumping on point. And
if you see part 3 of 7 on a cover, maybe skip it or grab the past 2 issues.
Yeah.
But again, if you see the start of a story arc, there's generally some attempt at getting people caught up.
I think what bothers him the most is like you go and you grab Green Arrow and it says Volume 4 on that damn trade paperback, and you're like, ugh.
So maybe the better question would be to ask us, I really like character X. Where should I start?
Yeah.
The Green Arrow, I have a fix for that. It's called stickers.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. I'm like, just sticker it or Sharpie it out, or find the issues and do a bind
I do like
yourself.
numbers on the spine, though. I like that a lot. I'm a big numbers on the spine kind of person.
I just hate it when they do the numbers, then stop doing the numbers.
Oh, I hate it because my first couple of Fables have no numbers. My first couple of Why the Last Man had numbers, and then they went to the numbering system. I'm like, you bastards.
Well, they're renumbering why, like, the soft covers, so all those little soft covers are going out of print, like they did with Preacher and Swamp Thing and a few others.
Do I have all of them? I better have all of them.
And I know Charlie...
I'd be very annoyed if I don't have
And
all
I know Charlie saw the Green Lantern. John's omnibuses are coming out, so...
Yes, I did.
Which means they're going to reissue all the trades afterwards.
The way I look at it at this point is I already have the hardcovers, and I know Brock is still missing one of the hardcovers.
I need Agent Orange.
And as far as I'm concerned, he can probably have my copy as I replace it with omnibuses.
So if nobody gets it for me before that, or I don't get it, I will get Charlie's.
Is that Annihilation Omnibus out yet?
Yeah.
It
is?
The first one,
Yep. Yeah, Charlie and I have our copies.
Well, I have the regular hardcovers.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, yeah, that's right.
Do we have in the store?
It's here. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
We need Guardians. That's what we need.
Well, isn't that the beginning of the Guardians? That's how I've been.
Yeah.
It's been told to me that's the start of it. That's why I should be reading.
Annihilation, Conquest,
but
Guardians, Nova.
Rocket existed before that, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's from.
That's all I care about is Rocket and Groot.
Well, they have the Rocket Raccoon trade.
There's there's a trade that collects all his like early appearances.
Okay.
Rocket Raccoon and Groot. But like Groot is a random monster that was in one issue of Tales to Astonish.
I mean, if you got Fast and Furious guy playing him, I'm in.
Yeah, he's not a character at that point. You don't want to read that. You want to read Where You Are. You don't want to read the old Rocket Raccoon stuff. It doesn't. That's not the same character.
This is what this new movie is about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they going to do the rest of them in this format? Because I'm going to be pissed off if I'm going to get this then all of Charlie's books are not going to get done.
I don't know about Guardians and Nova. I mean, the Guardians and Nova crossover issues will definitely have to be in the Annihilation Conquest one.
Okay.
But I don't know if they'll do a Guardians and Nova hardcover.
I just looked at the price. Ooh!
It's an omnibus, dude.
This is what's hilarious is I know they're doing the Guardians Ultimate Collection in 2 volumes.
Yeah, what's that about?
That's coming out after the movie.
Those are just the soft covers, like the rocket one you have in your hand.
Oh, okay. But what is that in here too? The Guardians?
No. But the Guardians is only 25 issues.
Wait, so do I rather get that instead of this?
Annihilation came out and relaunched who the Guardians were and all that. So they launched a Guardian series after Annihilation.
Oh, I see.
And Nova too.
Yeah, and Nova and all that. And then you got into Annihilation Conquest that then started to do crossovers with the various books that they had.
Oh, boy. Marvel never makes it easy for me, does it?
Nope.
Cool.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up for this week.
Wrap it up.
This episode, I should say thank you, all of you, for being here. And thank you all for listening. This episode and all our previous episodes are available at geekbox.net and occasionally, when I remember, at comicsconspiracy.biz.
And occasionally on the YouTube channel.
I kind of do those in bulk, where I'll do a few of them at a time, because I can just queue them up and then load them all up within a couple hours of each other. Go on forums.geekbox.net and you can discuss this episode as well as the Geekbox Facebook group. So just go do a search for Geekbox and just private group. You just ask them to be invited. We invite you right away. I'm usually on all day. So digital.comicsconspiracy.biz. You can go there and buy some great comics, all your digital books through Comixology, including some awesome sales on the weekend. Always check my Twitter account or go there on Friday. There's usually some good sales over the weekend. We have a bunch of other stuff we do. Brock's got conspiratorBrock.com. Omar, good thing you joined us today, comicsandthekind.com. I'm sure HeroClix game got in the way somehow. Charlie has the Infinite Longbox podcast and the Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension podcast, his Doctor Who. Will they be discussing the leaked black and white season 8 Doctor Who, or series 8 Doctor Who episodes?
As far as I'm concerned, no. We will be doing the modern stuff when it actually starts in August.
Nice. Good on you for not watching that.
We actually have it planned out where we will be releasing the final Hartnell story like the week before the new series starts.
Oh, nice.
So we'll kind of have that break of go from Hartnell to the first season of Capaldi and then start the Troughton stuff.
Cool. We're on Twitter. Ryan Higgins Ryan. Brock Sager, Omar's Comics and Decline, Bryce, who says he's going to be here next week. This is Larson Bryce. Toby's Toby XI, Charlie's Insanity and Chaos, and I should plug our other podcast. I never remember. We have the Geek Box, which I'm on every week. The Comedy Button, featuring Ryan Scott and all the other guys over there. Good Job Brain, which is a podcast run by old Geek Box.
Apparently, Karen's supposed to have an advertisement on Bart coming out soon.
Cool. I don't know anything about that.
For the
podcast? That's cool. Nice.
Yeah.
And the All Talk Podcast, which is our community forum podcast. So go listen to those guys. That's all we've got. So thank you guys, and we'll catch you next week.